Hey everybody, this is Chris Jerome from the Radical Independent Facebook page, and I'm here with Chris Moore, and he's got a blog and a book. And but before we kind of get into that, Chris, could you give a little bit of background about yourself? Kind of give us that little mini bio.
Honestly, I'm nothing special. I'm a normal guy. That's kind of the point of everything I'm trying to drive. I am a veteran. I was in the Marine Corps. Served in Iraq, 3 deployments. Then I got out and I life led to having kids, and but I ended up raising my kids by myself for a
Hmm.
long period of time. And I've always been a fix it guy. I'm a mechanic by trade, but I've just ever since I was a little kid, I've just always taken things apart and putting them back together. And I've trained my brain to think at systems. And
Right.
here lately, the last few years, I've just started evaluating and paying attention to the political spectrum from just an analytical side, withdrawn from everything. And
Right.
when you look at things systematically, it is really hard to miss a lot of obvious problems that people just aren't talking about.
You mentioned that you fix things, and that kind of leads me to the blog. So let's talk a little bit about that. It's called the Gun Loving Hippie Dad Who Fixes Stuff, and great name, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of brought kind of caught my eye or whatever, because like you said, we cover some of the same themes. There's some of the things that are going on right now. We there's some similarities in how we see things and stuff like that. So tell us just a little bit about the blog.
The gun loving hippie dad who fixes stuff. That name, the first part of it's kind of a joke, kind of a middle finger to both sides. I picked something that both sides hate.
Right.
The far right conservatives, they can't stand hippies, and the far left, it's guns. And it's like, man, you could clean air and gun rights don't have to cancel each other out.
Right.
You can like both. And I think a lot of reasonable people are on the same line. But the blog, it just kind of honestly, it's weird. I've always journaled and read a lot ever since I was real little. You can ask my mom. I was a kid getting yelled at for having a book at the dinner table. But I got to after I got back from my third deployment from Iraq, I had some issues with PTSD, as some of us do coming home.
Right.
I got involved with the VA, and I went through a considerable amount of therapy to kind of work through things. And one of the coping things that I had was to just write it out
Right.
when
Right.
something's bothering you. Just write it. You don't have to show anybody. You don't have to
Mhm.
read it. You just write it out. Yeah, I've just done it for years and years and years. And I mean, lately, just the things that have started bothering me is what's bothering a lot of people, and it's just our leadership.
Right.
We we deserve better. We have better people here. We have people that are capable of incredible things, and we're always given a choice between two extremes that honestly I wouldn't
Right.
follow in a Congo. You know what I
Right.
mean? And but so the writing just kind of worked into that, and I started reading it to a lot to my friends and stuff like that. And well, why don't you share this? And I've always been pretty technically inclined, so one day I just played around and built a blog or a website and posted on
That's
that. I haven't. I'm not a professional. There, everything I've done myself. Like I haven't
right.
hired anybody or anything
Well,
like that.
I'm
But
kind of the same way. I mean,
yeah,
I one summer I'm sitting around and I wasn't doing a lot, but I was in front of the computer and I thought, well, what the heck, man? Let me just get something going and see what happens. And yeah, so
the kids aging out, man. The kids are getting 18, getting older, and thinking that they don't need you as much. And I didn't realize from being a dad so long how much free time I have been.
right.
I mean, I'm still working full time. I'm still constantly moving, but all the times I was hanging out with my kids, they're off doing their things now. And so writing, and I just kind of dove into it. And my
Yeah.
mom's been pushing me to write a book. And
I was just going to mention one of your articles that kind of just made me laugh because it kind of encapsulates some of my thinking as well. And it was just kind of funny. But there's an article on your blog called Red versus Blue, the most pointless game show.
oh,
Or
yeah.
something like that, right? The world's most pointless game show or something like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And that kind of, goes into what you were just talking about. We're a country, this huge country, all kinds of talent, and this is what we're given. These two lousy
Right.
choices. We're all just kind of funneled and channeled into this stupid, simplistic binary is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, that's the next thing. So let's talk about the book. So you got a book. It's called The Bipartisan Circus: How
Yeah.
Clowns from Both Sides Keep Robbing the Concession Stand. So
Yeah.
give us the $2 summary kind of on that.
All right. Well, here, I mean, here, I'll give it a little plug. I just happen to have one right here. It's funny that the article that you brought up that actually evolved into one of the chapters in the book.
Hmm.
Um, in the book, I kind of lay it out how the same people that are driving us to be pissed off at each other, the same people that are hating you, making you hate your neighbor because of his street sign. It's marketing. If you study it, it's they're using a lot of the same tactics that they use in marketing to sell you stuff. They're intentionally playing off our emotions and giving us extremes. And the book goes into it a lot, and I don't know. I've been told that I have a good way of explaining complicated subjects. I don't know. I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but I level with people in the book. I don't sit here and tell you this election is the most important one. You're none of that stuff.
Right.
I think if people could open their eyes a little more and see that the reason they're driving our emotions is so that they can stay in power and keep the control and
Right.
and they're good at it. The same people that do this are the same people that turn fast food mascots into national icons. The
Right.
same people.
It
And
the advertising is incredible, and we're just kind of socialized, kind of brought up in this environment, and it just kind of goes into our brain subconsciously, unconsciously,
right,
basically. And it is a
right.
business. People got to keep that in mind. What they're doing, these are businesses. The parties are businesses,
Yeah.
and they have a product, and the product basically is winning elections. So by any means necessary, right? It's about power and control. So we both talk about how, politics and government's kind of gone nuts. You kind of bring it up in terms of I call it the industrial outrage complex, or
Right, right.
maybe the other way around, the outrage industrial complex. It works, man. It keeps us diverted. They know how to push the buttons. There's been a lot of research and studies done on the power and what it does to us psychologically, and it kind of helps keep it in power. You talk about sort of how like your party will not fix it. Like the Republican and Democratic Party cannot fix it. Am I right when you kind of mentioned that? Is that one of your
Well, yeah,
themes?
if you track the hit when I was talking earlier about how I look at things systematically, is it's you see patterns, and it wasn't too long ago that the Democrats were the ones that were hard on immigration.
Right,
You know what I mean? Not necessarily to the level that it's getting taken to
right,
now,
right.
but you see how they flip flop their
Hmm.
positions. But whenever it comes down to passing stuff to where the donors get paid, to where
Yeah,
they keep it, they seem to agree all of a sudden, and
yeah.
that's where it comes back to the sales part of it.
Well,
That's
just the lack of principle, right? Just the flip flopping.
right.
I mean, it's okay to change your mind or to, you get more information, better information, you adjust. Okay, that's part of growing and progress.
Yeah,
But the cynical way this happens with the parties, the contradictions and the hypocrisy, and I mean, anybody who's kind of outside. That's why I like you and others and me and others like
right,
us. We're kind of outsiders. We're not in the business. We don't hardcore partisans, so we can step back and kind of see things kind of from a different perspective. And it's like obvious to us in some ways. That's maybe not so obvious to people who are like knee deep in that partisan war. But it's just like, wow, how are people not noticing these things? The tribal
right.
politics, the identity, loyalty, very cult-like in a lot of ways. So you talk about people, kind of taking control, taking back control. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are some things that we can do, I guess, basically to maybe try to help deal with this situation?
We got to start locally, is what I think. Like we're not going to come out and slay the dragon overnight.
Right,
You know what I mean. Like they're pretty dug in, but people start getting involved in their neighborhoods and seeing that these neighbors they're not bad guys just because this person on TV tells me they are.
right,
Go to your city council meetings. Pay attention. So many people don't even know who their representatives are, or who owns the water rights in their counties, and like
right,
we start taking control of our local areas. And I'm not calling. I need to clarify that I'm not rebellion or nothing like that. But
right,
we do it through the ballot box. We do it through we be a self-governing people. We
Right.
can't be, we've been not paying attention for so long. It's not because we're dumb, and it's not because we don't care. It's because they've kept us so busy and so exhausted and so struggling to keep our heads above
Right.
water and our families fed, that we haven't been paying attention to what they're doing in the background.
Right.
And it's getting extreme. Like that's I'm a veteran, you're a veteran. These people are the ones that are representing us on the national stage.
Right.
You know what I
It,
mean? I
yeah.
want an adult in the room. I'm not even saying I have to agree with their politics. I just want
Right.
an adult in the room.
Right.
And
It's embarrassing, man. It's
it
embarrassing.
is.
It's shameful at this point. And
Mm,
we just kind of go along with it. It's kind of crazy. So, the radical independent, right? I talk about critical independent thinking. I talk about, just politically independent and kind of, and I know you mentioned that a little bit too. Independent thinking can kind of is a threat. It's a threat to the machine, right?
it is. It is. It's the anomaly in the system.
So I tell people, one of my sort of detach, check out, quit playing their game, get away from the manipulation, and just it's a con, and just kind of back off that. I call it becoming a political Buddha, basically, right? You just kind of step back
Right.
and and it just kind of gives you a better perspective of things. But I like what you say about starting local and just kind of rebuilding sort of the civic landscape close to home and from the
Right.
ground up, basically.
See, we have an interesting race going on in Nebraska right now. I mean, you can look it up. The incumbent is Pete Ricketts. He's Republican. There's an independent who's a diesel mechanic.
I think I know who
Dan
you're talking
Osborne.
about. What's
Dan
his name?
Osborne is
Yeah,
Dan
Dan Osborne.
Osborne. He's running as a registered independent.
Yeah.
And I can see the smear campaigns on this man. Like, he's a Navy veteran, and then he just, like, I have more in common with this guy than I do probably any politician
Right.
that I've encountered in the smear campaign that they're launching on him, and you can see it.
Yeah.
And he raised more money than them in the first quarter. That was a big deal, and he's starting to make them notice. But that's kind of what I mean. This is an election year, and this is important. And my stance on voting this year is, I'm never going to be a guy who doesn't vote. You know what I mean? Like, I know what that right means. I understand that's one of the most important responsibilities we have, but I'm done. I'm done co-signing madness just because somebody tells me the other side's worse.
Oh yeah.
So my stance is this year I'm not voting for anybody attached to a party at all. If there's nobody available, I'm writing somebody in. And my reasoning behind this is if you track the last couple election cycles, the independent voters have grown significantly. It's grown significantly, not big enough to take out the parties yet. But when you show up and you put a counted none of the above into the statistics instead of just not showing up. They want you to not show up. They want you to be like, they want you to either vote for them or not show up. But when you actually show up and vote independently, they start noticing that number. And now they start noticing that they got to start winning our votes. They can't just keep us distracted anymore.
Right.
So that's
And
kind of the statement that I'm trying to push and make this election cycle. I know we're not going to take them out this time. I get that.
right.
But if we can grow off of the numbers of the last one, by the time 26 comes around or 28 comes around, who knows?
Yeah.
But,
Well, you got to start somewhere, and you just got to grow it, and you got to show up, and they take the voters for granted. They can do whatever they want, and they know that we're going to show up and just vote for them because those are the only real choices. And if enough people just say no,
mm,
well, things can start to change a little bit.
that
It's funny that you bring up Dan Osborne, though. I'm familiar. I actually reached
uh,
out to him, his campaign. I actually reached out and asked if he'd be down for a quick little interview or talk or something like that. I never heard back. They probably saw, oh, the radical independent. No, we're not going to do
I'll,
that.
I'll reach out. I'll reach out to him because I'm in his district, so we'll see.
Well, look, I want to thank you for being here. It's great to talk to you. We talked a little bit, a few times before, but to actually meet you, and we got a lot in common. Like you said, we're both veterans. We both are kind of out regular people, outsiders trying to speak out, push for change, and and if we can just kind of keep that momentum going and keep sharing and spreading the word, maybe we'll hit that inflection point.